Good evening. Tonight's top story, Jeudy is now officially a Cleveland Brown. The Cleveland Browns sent a 5th and 6th round pick to the Denver Broncos in exchange for Jeudy. We will talk about the fallout of this trade. What does it mean for the Cleveland Browns? What does it mean for the Denver Broncos? And we will talk about Mac Jones, who is now reportedly on his way out of New England. There are now rumors swirling that the Patriots are open to trade him, fielding offers, and reportedly even receiving interest from teams. We will then talk about Mike Evans and his impending reunion with Baker Mayfield. We'll talk about what Mike Evans said in recent interviews, and we'll talk about a recent signing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that all starts right now on Player Profiler today. Wrong video. This one. Welcome into Player Profiler today, everybody. Thank you for forgetting about that technical issue there. We'll just move past that. I am your Saturday evening host, Matt Babich. Happy to be here with you talking about today's NFL headlines, March 9th. Not a lot of news usually floating around in March, but we were thankful enough. We were lucky enough to get a trade break just this morning. Jeudy is a Cleveland Brown. So the Denver Broncos tried all of 2023 to get rid of Jeudy. They were playing him more than they need to be playing him. They were force feeding him targets for the entire first half of the season. And Steve Smith, it took until about week 8 or so, and Steve Smith really lit a fire under all of this by talking a lot of smack to Jeudy, saying he wasn't worth the trade compensation that they were trying to receive for Jeudy. And turns out he was very right, because instead of even getting a mid-round pick for Jeudy, all the Browns had to do was toss them a 5th and 6th round pick. And it's interesting from the compensation perspective, because as we know, Jeudy on a rookie contract. So with given where he was selected in the first round, if the Denver Broncos moved on from Jeudy at the end of next season, at the end of his contract, they would have received a 3rd round compensatory pick. So instead of getting we'll say between pick 190 and pick 200 of the NFL draft, the back of the 3rd round, they took a 5th and a 6th to simply part ways and get it over with. And that's the trade-off for front office managers. Do the Denver Broncos want to go into this season with Jeudy? Clearly, they do not. It's worth it to the team to forfeit that draft capital, to put Mims in a situation where he can see an expanded role. The team is still reportedly looking to shop away Courtland Sutton. So, Joe Frick in the chat, happy for you to be here, brother. So, from a compensation perspective, we're going to see a lot of tweets, and we already have, about the Denver Broncos just taking kind of a low ball offer. And this is simply the market. Jeudy was never going to garner more than a 3rd round pick. They can keep him on the team. They can waste time that the Broncos are going to spend, I guess, tanking in the upcoming season. They're getting rid of Russell Wilson now. This is a clean sweep of Sean Payton sweeping out the garbage from this roster and starting to build up. So we came into this thinking that Sean Payton was going to be competitive right away. All those years with the Saints, he built a competitive franchise. He was going to try and compete with Russell Wilson in Denver. And now Russell Wilson is going to be gone. Jeudy is going to be gone. The Broncos reportedly have no interest in any of the free agent quarterbacks that are swirling about. They're not in a position to draft anybody of significance. So, for all intents and purposes, it's Jarrett Stidham's team to lead going into 2024. Now, I liked what Stidham was able to show in small spurts, but I think we all know that this is a long-term play for Denver. And so they're going to tank. They're going to tank. They're going to be a bad team. And this is the ultimate sell window for Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, 2023, despite Jeudy only playing 66% of snaps, that was outside of the top 60 among receivers. So plenty of opportunity available outside of Cortland Sutton. Yet Marvin Mims had one game with 5 targets. He averaged 2 targets per game. He had a 13% target rate, so only saw a target on 13% of his routes run. He had a 15-yard ADOT, so he was a deep threat decoy. Something is not clicking right now at the NFL level for Marvin Mims. He looked polished as a route runner coming out of college, and yet we're not seeing that translate into the next level. Maybe it's a coaching usage issue. We don't know yet. We haven't seen enough of the sample, but it does look like with Jerry Jeudy out, Marvin Mims is going to step into a larger role. The current dichotomy in the fantasy football landscape is that good for Marvin Mims? Or should I say, how good is that for Marvin Mims? Does that actually push him up? What if the Broncos draft a receiver in the 3rd round? They draft a Ricky Pearsall, a Malachi Corley. How funny would it be if they drafted Malachi Corley? That's a slot receiver. But anyway, the Broncos are tanking. Now, what about the Cleveland Browns? So this is obviously going to put an end to the fantasy relevancy of Elijah Moore. If it was somewhat alive before this moment, it's dead. The dream is dead. It's never been more over than it is right now. He's going to see even more slot work with Jeudy likely going to be the number 2 in 2 receiver sets. So Elijah Moore is going to be a 3+ receiver set, slot exclusive guy. And that's pretty much it for him. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, he's going to go into a situation where Amari Cooper is the locked-in number 1. David Njoku is the 2nd target in the passing game. So now Jeudy steps in as the 3rd target on a Cleveland offense that didn't have much life outside of the Joe Flacco days last season. So not that anyone was drafting Jerry Jeudy before, but this certainly isn't a better situation for him. Cleveland is not a pass early, pass often team. They can't sustain 3 truly fantasy relevant pass catchers. And they have their 2 in Amari Cooper and David Njoku. Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy are going to be the ones fighting for scraps. So don't get too excited about Jerry Jeudy. If there's any price increase, don't buy into it. But let's look at a front office perspective. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, since he entered in his role as this team's GM, he has acquired Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Jerry Jeudy for 2/5, 1/6, and a round move back, a round trade back. That's a fantastic job. We got to clap it up for Andrew Berry. That's how you GM right there. You put together a very solid receiving core. We're not talking an elite trio by any means, but for the cost of acquiring these assets and putting together a very functional receiving room, that's pretty impressive. You give yourself the freedom then to go out and take shots on receivers in the draft. If Jeudy truly doesn't have it, or if Elijah Moore's time is up, you have someone ready next, and you collectively lower the expense of your entire receiving core, gives you flexibility to spend picks on more premium positions like defensive ends, linebackers, safeties, anyone in their secondary that needs repaired. They have the freedom to get this done. So Andrew Berry is one of the league's sharpest GMs besides the Deshaun Watson deal. We won't talk. We'll throw that one out. But other than that, he's been an incredible executive, and he's giving Deshaun Watson the tools to succeed. There's never been more pressure on Deshaun Watson to perform than there is right now. He's getting more weapons. Joe Flacco just brought the life back in this team. Talks are that Joe Flacco may return to Cleveland as their backup. So there's never been more pressure on Deshaun Watson who already has the world's worst trade and world's worst contract tied to him, we will find out who Deshaun Watson really is this season. No more excuses after this season. He's either going to beat the allegations and return to being an elite quarterback, or he will forever be known as the biggest overpay in the league's history. There will never be another screw up more massive than the trade and signing of Deshaun Watson. And for it to happen to Cleveland is just heartbreaking. For it to happen to that city in particular, I'm sure Joe Frick, a resident Steelers fan, wouldn't necessarily agree with me. He doesn't share that sympathy. But for any city, for it to happen to the Cleveland Browns, to struggle so much, and then to push all of your chips in for what could be a generational talent and what is looking like a generational flop would be a very heartbreaking thing to happen for that city. We're going to talk about Mac Jones and the Patriots here, but we are going to be right back after a message from the Podfather. So join us here in 1 minute back on Player Profiler today.
All right, I want to take a moment today to talk to you about data analysis. The data analysis tool, we listen to the users. What do you want? What do you need? And we made it happen. We added popular reports like a fantasy scoring report, air yards report. And if you want to create a new report, but you don't necessarily want to look through every field, we have quick results. Hey, show me the most popular passing data. Show me the most popular rushing data, fantasy data. Done. And the thing just is much faster than it's ever been. And the report builder got a lot easier. I mean, check this out. We break it down into offense, defense. Show me just fantasy data elements. And then when you get results, hey, show me by draft year. Let's take a look at just certain players that played a certain number of snaps or a certain number of games last year. This is the tool that so many of you have been asking for, plus a bunch of dream features that Billy wanted and Cody wanted and I wanted and Dario wanted. So go to the fantasy tools section, click on data analysis, or go to playerprofiler.com/data-analysis.
We are back with Player Profiler today. I'm your host, Matt Babich. Go check out Player Profiler Data Analysis. It is truly an incredible tool, one that I use all the time and can't recommend enough. We are back, and we are going to talk about Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. We got the resident New England Patriots fan on. I guess I shouldn't say that, as Matt Kelly's a Patriots fan and Ahan Runkt is a Patriots fan, and Matty Kinwoom is a Patriots fan. We got a lot of Patriots fans running around Player Profiler, but we got a Patriots fan on the pod to talk about this whole situation that's brewing, and it couldn't be more obvious that it was going to end this way. I don't think what happened in 2023 gave anyone any confidence that Mac Jones was going to return, even with a new regime. You know, Gerard Mayo's been within those four walls for that entire stretch. And before we even get into Mac Jones and whose fault this all is, let's just talk about the new regime coming in and deciding to make this decision. Clearly, this hints at going quarterback in this draft. We are going tabula rasa, clean slate. We have to clean out this quarterback room, and we're going to build it from the ground up. That's why we've already seen a report of Jacoby Brissett. Now, how cool would this be? Jacoby Brissett mentoring Jaden Daniels. That's a fresh start worth being passionate about, being invigorated by. Any sort of future that has Mac Jones still in this building is just clinging on to the same old shit that has tortured this franchise for the past few years. The bad decisions that have pushed back the window of the Patriots' success. Got to flush all of that out. And so no matter whose fault it is, no matter if you think Mac Jones has some talent left, it was time to move on. It's time to move on. And the moment that the Patriots landed in the top three, even we can go even before that, when the saga of the Mac Jones benching and Bailey Zappi starting and then Mac Jones starting, Bailey Zappi benching, as soon as we played flip-flop again with Bailey Zappi in 2 straight seasons, that's when you should have known it was over. But it's all but officially over now. The Patriots have leaked the report that they're open to trading him. I don't know if they've actually gotten any interest. I would guess, without seeing more specific reporting, that it's been more of gauging the price. I don't know who would want him. I know there's going to be the attitude that, these coaches all think they're very smart, and that they can fix mistakes. They can take the good traits and work out the bad traits. Mac just has those bad traits that generally don't get shaken out. Not being able to see the field, panicking, making bad decisions, just showing poor arm talent. I don't think I've ever seen more pick sixes thrown on underthrown routes to the outside in my entire life. I went to my first NFL game, and it's taken me a long time, but my first NFL game, I live here in Dallas, Texas now, so I went and saw the Patriots for the first time against the Cowboys. We lost 38-3, and I had a shred of hope for Mac Jones in that moment. I wore a Mac Jones jersey to the game. I walked out of there praying that we just continued to lose because I didn't want to see Mac Jones in a New England Patriots jersey anymore. And it looks now that we're on the route to getting Jaden Daniels, potentially getting Jacoby Brissett or some other veteran in to mentor him, or at least potentially be the day one starter to let the rookie, sit back and learn, embrace the NFL. But let's go into even past the body language, just the attitude, the entitlement. He just looks like a rich Alabama frat kid in the way he looks, talks, acts. And it's that type of entitlement and that type of character issues that lead my list of reasons why you wouldn't want to trade for Mac Jones. But let's go into even more reasons statistically. In 2023, he's number 4 in interceptable passes, 8th among QBs in interceptions. He threw 12 in 11 games played. 11 games played, 12 interceptions, 8th in the league. 30th in air yards per attempts. I know that this team didn't necessarily have a deep receiving threat, but the fact of the matter is that he's been a check down Charlie for all 3 seasons in the NFL. He hasn't shown the ability to play downfield. 82 among quarterbacks in EPA. I don't even know if 82 people threw a pass in 2023. There must have been, but this has to be near dead last in terms of anybody who threw a football in 2023. Just a treacherous EPA. He was losing them plays, a negative EPA. He was losing them points every time he stepped out on the field. And if you watched him play at all, that was obvious. And number 26 in true completion percentage. So you can take a bunch of more stats than that. Go to playerprofiler.com/Mac-Jones and you can see his player page. Pick some stats. It's probably towards the bottom end of quarterbacks. And yes, I know that his best receiver this year was Demario Douglas / Hunter Henry / maybe Devontae Parker. I mean, these are awful names that I'm throwing out here. So I know that he had no talent around him. But the fact of the matter is, you could tell just in his decision-making and the way he was throwing the ball, these are the same things that we're trying to say about Justin Fields. The same things about Zach Wilson. Like, we see these detrimental traits, the ones where Peyton Manning looks sick to his stomach watching him play football. We all know what Peyton looks like on those broadcasts when he sees bad quarterback play. Those are the traits that make everyone just shudder and just you tighten up. It's like the secondhand embarrassment. How are you doing this? How are you this bad? It's your 3rd year in the NFL. How do you not know how to step up in the pocket or just how to understand just to throw it away? Don't underthrow it to the boundary. There's all these things that people on their couches know and they can't go out there and execute. We know it. He's a bad quarterback. So I don't know who's going to want him. This seems like a situation where he ends up getting released. Unless a team is willing to throw a 5th or 6th round pick away to go get Mac Jones. But again, I don't know if anyone out there, 60 plus of you tuning in live right now, do any one of you have enough faith in Mac Jones to trade a 5th or 6th round pick to get him onto your team? Would you rather have Mac Jones or a 5th or 6th round pick? I think most people that are in here, most to all of you, would say you'd rather just have a 5th or 6th round pick. Rather draft a Bo Nix or a Spencer Rattler and see what they have. So Mac Jones is going to be attempted to be traded away. But in my opinion, I don't think they find a suitor, and I think it comes down to Mac Jones being released from the New England Patriots. Moving on to Mike Evans. So Mike Evans was recently extended or re-signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have now franchise tagged Antoine Winfield, signed a deal with Mike Evans, or agreed to a deal with Mike Evans. And the last piece of the puzzle for the main free agents that are hitting the market is Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans called Baker Mayfield an elite quarterback and has been very verbal about hoping to get him back next year. Now, if you read my free agency previews on playerprofiler.com, I believe the Mike Evans and Baker ones have both come out probably 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. You can find those on playerprofiler.com/articles. I wrote about this reunion a while ago. I did think Mike Evans was going to get franchise tagged for a little bit. At that time, I wasn't aware of the development with Antoine Winfield, so let that one slip. But regardless, now that Mike Evans is there, this is a done deal. All they have left to do is just work out the numbers. So aside from the reasons that Baker makes sense for this team, what options do either sides have right now? So for the Buccaneers, they could get Kirk, but Kirk Cousins is likely either going to stay home in Minnesota or go to Atlanta from current reports. Russell Wilson, plus he's reportedly being targeted by Pittsburgh. And then there's Justin Fields. No, that doesn't make any sense for them. Go through the draft. That doesn't really make any sense for them either. Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but Jimmy G's not better than Baker at this point, and I think everyone knows that. And then on Baker's end, he probably won't be able to go to Atlanta. I don't think they have the interest in him. And even if they did, is that necessarily a better situation than Tampa Bay? I mean, with Atlanta, you do have a very good roster, but you just made the playoffs with Tampa Bay. And we're fairly close to going to the NFC Championship game. And that was a close game with Detroit for a very long time. And Tampa hung in there the entire game. Minnesota, yeah, they're not interested. Pittsburgh, probably not interested. You wouldn't want to go there over Tampa Bay anyway. Denver, absolutely not. So unless it's about money and getting a team to just throw some dollar signs at him, which doesn't seem like Baker Mayfield's personality at this point in his career, it makes sense for both parties to reunite in Tampa Bay. I mean, Baker was a very proficient quarterback last year. Top 10 in the NFL in money throws, number 13 among quarterbacks in adjusted yards per attempt, number 9 in EPA, number 5 in air yards per attempt, and number 17 in true completion percentage. He was number 8 in interceptable passes and 12 in danger plays, but that's what you get with Baker Mayfield. You're going to get the aggressiveness. But when you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Cade Otton even, you have Rachaad White in the backfield. You have plenty of weapons surrounding Baker Mayfield. You want him to be aggressive. That's how this team is built. A stout defense that's going to provide you with the backbone to be able to be aggressive and take those chances. And they're also going to set you up with good field position so you don't have to sustain long drives all the time. You're going to put the defense on their back heels, get them out on the field a lot. And a tired defense is going to struggle to compete with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White, all these names. So it makes sense for Tampa to bring back Baker. As far as we know now, Baker has not been in serious talks with any other teams, although there is probably interest somewhere. But to me, this is a situation that all that is left to do is figure out the dollars and cents. It makes the most sense for Tampa to go with Baker. It makes the most sense for Baker to go with Tampa. They're going to figure out how to do it, and Tampa is going to be running it back. I like the way this team is forming. The only issue is, how big of a piece was Dave Canales? Now in Carolina as their head coach, what's this offense going to look like? Is it going to look the same? Are all of his concepts going to essentially stay? Are they gone? There's a lot of uncertainty in the coaching aspect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As far as their roster is concerned, there's probably just about as much certainty as it being in lockstep with what it was last year. But as far as what this coaching looks like, and what this offense is going to be ran like, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Dave Canales could have been the engine, much as people are suspecting that Ben Johnson may be the same thing in Detroit. So when these pieces of the puzzle leave, when guys leave, I'm blanking on his name right now, and I'm not happy about that, but look at Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. Their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, it comes to be now. Shane Steichen leaves and goes to Indianapolis. This offense looks like it is incapable of being managed. So what's going to happen? Is that going to happen to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is that going to happen to the Detroit Lions when Ben Johnson ultimately leaves? These are the very important questions that we are going to soon find out our answers to. And to wrap up the show, Brandon Graham has re-signed or agreed to re-sign with, I don't think any of these things are actually official until the new league year begins, but they are agreed to with the Philadelphia Eagles in what he says will likely be his last season. The 35-year-old signs for his 15th season. He racked up 73 career sacks, 146 QB hits, 21 forced fumbles. And the Eagles retain some much-needed veteran leadership here on the defensive side. The Eagles rank 13th in pressure rate, 19th in total sacks, and 6th in QB hurry rate last season. It was a down year for this defense, but the drafting of Jalen Carter is certainly one of the biggest things to happen to this franchise defensive end for a very long time, since maybe the days of Fletcher Cox or Darius Slay in his heyday. But the Philadelphia Eagles need all the veteran leadership they can get right now after what happened last season. They not only need to bring in more coaching, more level-headed coaching, not guys like Nick Sirianni that fly off the handle. They need to get a visionary for their offensive end, and they need veteran leadership because it seemed like the locker room wasn't quite clicking last season. And the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have a big challenge in front of them next season. There's a lot of expectations on Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of questions surrounding this coaching. How big of a role did Nick Sirianni play into the downfall of this franchise? Will they return to being those Super Bowl contenders? There's a lot on the line for the Eagles. The narrative around Jalen Hurts' career, they are certainly going to be an interesting storyline to follow throughout the offseason, throughout the NFL season. We could be looking at the Cowboys reclaiming the NFC East as their division. That will do it for today's show. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We had nearly 70 people here in the show with me, so I thank each and every one of you. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, go check out the YouTube link. Player Profiler News on YouTube. We're trying to grow this channel. If you're on either of the other platforms, at Profiler _NFL is our Player Profiler NFL, our Player Profiler News Twitter account. Go give that a follow as well. Again, thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your weekend.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.